Hey, I'm Marie, and in this video I want to share with you how I've been using Notion to help me with my meal prepping and planning. I've been doing some form of meal planning for the last probably 15 years, and Notion was really the only tool that I found that actually helped me with this process to make it speedier. I would say food is probably my special interest, so this is a use case that I have been iterating on for many years. The first video I ever made about how I was using Notion was a meal prepping and meal planning video. 2 years later, I made a new video, and again, Notion continues to add new features and new functionality, so I've continued to iterate on and improve this system. I've shared online examples of how I've been using it to create what I call Food HQ, which is a place where I do my pantry management, meal planning, recipe collection, and all sorts of stuff to help me stay on top of my meal prepping. Now, I get a lot of questions about how I set this up and what are the different ways that we might want to do this, because there isn't just one way to do your meal planning. Everybody's needs are a little bit different. I'm a vegetarian, I have ADHD, and food is my special interest. So the way that I approach my meal planning is going to be a little bit different than you. And I wanted to highlight over the years some of the changes that I've made and some of the different ways to give yourself some flexibility over how you might want to approach this. I'll showcase some of the ways that I've been using it in my workspace, and then we'll switch over and do a little bit of a build from scratch so you can understand how to do this in your own workspace. As I've leaned on technology to help me make this process faster, I've learned a number of things. I also did a culinary boot camp last year that taught me a number of skills in the kitchen, and it's really kind of helped me level up my flavor creation and really helped give me some new perspectives on how I approach making food in the kitchen. Meal planning can mean different things to different people, and you may have different intentions for why you want to do meal planning and for also how much and to what extent you want to plan in advance. For me, I want to optimize how much time I'm spending in the kitchen and making sure that I have healthy meals so that I'm not resorting to grabbing snacks or skipping meals because I don't have the energy to make good food. There are different levels of complexity and intensity in terms of meal planning, and there's by no means any right or wrong way to do it. There's just options based on how much energy you have and what your intention is. One of the really simple ways that I do meal prepping is I ask myself, what needs to get used up in the pantry or the fridge? Is there some spinach in the back of your fridge that's going bad that you need to use up? Then I might focus a meal plan on specific ingredients and specific flavor profiles. Other times I might have recipes that I just haven't made in a while and I'm really craving. So sometimes I'll do a freestyle meal plan where I'm just collecting a few recipes that I really love and I know how to make, and I'll prep them and I will batch cook them in advance. Sometimes I'll walk through the store and do my groceries, and I will plan a meal around what groceries are on sale. I choose my recipes in advance. I make the components, sometimes make large batches of those things, and in some cases freeze and portion things out so that I have them for the week. And then on the more advanced side of things, there's the pre-made meal plans. And these are recipes, components, ingredients that are designed to work well together because there's a lot of shared components between those recipes. This can of course help with money saving as you're factoring in, if I'm buying a bag of onions, I can use it in this recipe over here and in this other one over here. It's a little bit more intentional, it's a little bit more of an advanced use case, but it does kind of help take the decision making out of it when you've made a group of recipes that really work well together. And over time, as you make a couple collections of these pre-made meal plans, you get to the point where you make up enough pre-made meal plans that you can plan out 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks in advance, and you know exactly what you're going to make, which reduces that decision fatigue. It's a little more advanced, but I've given myself the ability in Notion to be able to decide, do I want to go ingredient first? Do I want to freestyle it? Or do I just want to pre-select a pre-made meal plan that is already ready to go? So let me jump in and show you what my Food HQ looks like. All right, so here we are in the Food HQ. For me, this is fun. This is a hobby. I love thinking about food, planning food, looking at what other chefs are doing, coming up with recipe ideas, planning dinner parties. This is fun for me. So I have a lot of supportive pages here. For the purposes of this video, we are mostly going to focus on meal planning. So let's jump into the meal planning page. So here we are in the meal planning page. You'll see there's a small table of contents here. Plan this week's meals by freestyle, by ingredient, by pre-made plans, or by weekly prep. So let's go through these one by one. The freestyle is probably the easiest method. It really only requires 2 databases, a recipes database and a groceries database. In this case, I actually have a third database that is courses, so breakfast, appetizers, snacks, etc. That's a database. You could also do this as a single select or a multi-select. As an example, let's just open up one so you can see what this looks like. So baked oatmeal, I've got a checkbox for, is this planned? Yes or no. The status is, have I made it or not, or is it in progress? I've got an ingredients database here, which is basically the groceries database. and I've got a little checkbox for whether or not it's been checked off that I need it. So if I'm low on those, a little checkbox is going to show up. I've got a URL if I've saved this from the web and there's a specific website related to it. I can relate this to other recipes. And this is the category where I've got breakfast, but you could also do this as a single select. And then I choose the course. So it shows up in one of these categories. And I've got a couple other formulas and things. I won't go into too much detail about that. And I also like to track the date that I last made it. This is one way for me to clear out the database over time if I find that I'm not really using recipes super often. So then I include the recipe below with all the instructions. I still include the ingredients here with their quantities, and I just make sure that I've added the ingredients here as well through a relation. That's the part that takes the longest out of this system, is adding the recipes into your recipe database and linking them up to the ingredients. It's the most time-consuming part. Once that's done, the planning part is pretty easy. I do not add every single recipe to my Notion workspace. I would say my Notion workspace only has the recipes that are tried and true, the ones that I make really frequently, the ones that make the cut, make it to Notion. I have lots of Pinterest pins and recipes that I've saved online that, you know, I've maybe tried once and I'm not sure if they're going to make it into Notion. So for me, Notion is sort of the reliable ride or die, and I know that they make the cut. So what you are seeing here is the same recipe database displayed in two different ways. On the left-hand side, I've got the list view grouped by category: breakfast, appetizer, snacks, etc. I hide the beverages and even components I might show. Again, there's lots of different ways to do this. This is just how I like to organize the information. And on the right-hand side, I do the same thing, but I group this by course. And this is a single select. So these are sort of like categories. You know, I could have a salad as a main, I could have it for breakfast if I wanted to, I could have it for lunch. And so basically what I do is go through section by section and I decide, what do I want to eat for breakfast this week? And I can go through and I can uncheck these and check them. Maybe I want a breakfast bowl or some overnight oats. Maybe I want overnight oats and then also want to do a Vietnamese crepe. I can do that. So I just check the boxes for the ones that I want. And again, most of these I've made before, I've seen them before. I can usually scan and kind of know what they are. If not, I can always click on this and it's going to show me a little preview here. So let's say I've decided those are the things I want to make for breakfast. Okay, great. I can close this up and I'll go to the next one. Okay, what do I want to have for snacks? You know, maybe let's make some tzatziki. And again, this is freestyle, so I'm not necessarily being wise about how the ingredients are being shared. I'm just deciding, okay, let's make some, you know, olive tapenade and some tzatziki. And if you scroll down, I can see this one actually hasn't been assigned to a course. So if I open that, let's make sure that we give this a course, and that'll be snacks and sides. And that should show up in the right spot here. I think also tzatziki, condiments and prep, I would probably switch that to snacks and sides. And you know, it's kind of up to you how you want to categorize these, but this is just kind of how I think about it. So again, I can go through and decide yes, no, which ones I want, close these up. Okay, let's maybe add a, egg salad or something like that. And then I already made this one last week, so I'm going to hide that one. And when I'm in the process of making this, I can change this from in progress to ready, etc. So a couple different options there. So I just go through and make sure that every category has something in it. And then that's going to give me my list for the week. So these are all the recipes. I can kind of scan that and decide, okay, yes, no, does that make sense? And then I'm going to click on shop, and this is going to give me the list of groceries for everything that is included in the recipes that I checked. And I can go through and say, okay, no, I don't have carrots. I don't have bell peppers. I need some more tofu. And I'm just sorting this by need. So the stuff that I need is always going to show up at the top first. And I can just kind of go through. I like to organize it by department first and then subcategory. So I can look at all my spices in one go, all the oils, all this good stuff here, jars and cans. And I would just go through, check anything that might be missing. Now, I also have a widget on my phone that shows me my grocery list filtered only to show me things where need is checked. So again, this is the full list, but on my phone, when I'm actually doing the groceries, I'm only going to see this list of things that are checked. It's also going to show me anything that's been checked that isn't in this list. And just to show you what the filters look like, in this case, there aren't actually any active filters. I've got ingredients contains in case I do want to pick recipes that contain, let's say cauliflower. I can save for everyone, and you can see it really minimizes my choices, so I can go through and say, you know what, let's choose a main that uses one of these. I really like these shawarma bowls here. And again, sometimes if they haven't been given a category, they may not show up. Here we go, dinner, shawarma bowl, and wrap. So again, that's just another quick way to do that. I'll clear that out. But generally speaking, I show all of the available recipes, and I just add a rule in case I want to do any quick filtering. And then on this end, I'm only showing anything where planned is checked. Pretty simple. So that is the simple freestyle planner. It's pretty basic. Again, it just is mostly just using the recipes database displayed in a couple different ways. One is the selector, the other is the visual overview, which I find very helpful as a visual person. It kind of helps me plan, like, how do these flavors work together? Is this going to make sense? How much prep work is needed in advance? All that good stuff. And then of course I can uncheck these, or I can go to clear and I can click all of them in one go, and I can change planned to unplanned just by clicking on that. And that's going to clear out the system. So I've just given myself a couple views that are already pre-made for me. It kind of reduces the amount of clicking. Again, otherwise I would have to unclick, unclick, unclick. So this just gives me one really quick way to do that. Okay, so we've got our freestyle meal planner, and I think that's probably sufficient for most people who are just getting started with meal planning. And then under the by ingredient area down here, I've got a couple different views for me. I'm showing my groceries here with the status visible so that I can go through and quickly change the status in case there's something that needs to get used up quickly. So, let's say I've got onions that need to get used up. I can just change the status here, and I just go through my list. I've mostly, I think, filtered this to my, let's double check this filter. So department is fresh fruits and vegetables, because that's the stuff that tends to go bad quickly. And so I just kind of go through and do a little bit of an inventory, check what needs to get used up. And then I've got a filter over here that says only show things where the stock is use me up. And what's basically happening here is, I'll open up one of these so you can see what's going on. I'm sure there's a lot easier of a way to do this, but this works for now. So basically, I know that because lemons are needing to be used up, it's showing up here as use me up. So this is saying this recipe contains an ingredient that needs to get used up. So all of these here contain recipes that need to get used up. So I can kind of visually go through here if I want to and say, oh, you know what, a great way to use up some of those veggies here would be this, this, and this. And I can go through and then I can say, okay, that's planned, etc. And you can see those getting added up here. I can see that these also don't have a course. Again, I might need to go and batch update some of those recipes to make sure that they get assigned with a course, because I never used to use this system, so it's still pretty new. So I have some old recipes that will probably need to get updated there. So that's one way to sort of manage your, inventory by ingredients and get meal ideas and that sort of thing. And then I can just go through a couple different views here. And so this is where I can get specific and say, I want to see anything that needs to get used up, or anything that the ingredients contains specific ingredients. So it's kind of up to you if you want to get really specific. Maybe you saw something was on sale and you bought it at the store and you're like, okay, now I need to know, like, what can I make with Napa cabbage? And that's going to show up here. So I just give myself a couple different views, and then I can review this again and be like, you know what, that's too many dinners. I don't need all of this. And I already made that one, so I'm going to hide that. I don't always plan dessert, but hey, it's there. I might even organize this a little bit to hide that. Again, lots of different ways you could choose to display these, but it's really the recipes and the groceries database that are working together. So then I might hide this and move on to the pre-made meal plans. So full disclosure here, all of these meal plans that you see here, I have purchased from Rainbow Plant Life. It's a meal planning system that you can pay quarterly for, and every single week you get a PDF with your list of recipes. All of the prep work is predefined, and all I've done is brought that information into Notion. So I'll show you roughly what that looks like. So here's the recipes, there's an overview here. I can see all the instructions for the components and prep work that need to happen, and a little overview of the recipes here. And I can also see, again, all the ingredients along with the ones that actually need to get purchased. So maybe I need more cashews, I need more chickpeas, etc. So I can just go through the list and click those here. And then at the end, I've just got the shopping list for this meal plan specifically. So it's a pretty simple view. I've hidden most of these properties here, but yeah, you can basically see the list of recipes, the ingredients. I'm using a formula instead of a roll-up because it's pretty nerdy, but it's allowing me to look at the recipes, find the ingredients, flatten them, turn them into a group, and then I want to organize those by subcategory. And that way it just kind of groups things visually, so I can see the oils are together, the breads are together, proteins are together, etc. It's just pretty nerdy. And then I just add some prep notes for myself here, any snacks and sides. This formula is going to check whether or not the date is the current week, and if so, it's going to check it, and that way I can filter that in different ways to say, you know, show me the meal plans that are checked for this week. And, you know, I can use a calendar view if I want to. I don't normally really use this calendar view, but if you wanted to say, hey, this is the meal plan for this particular week, you can do that. That's the one for this week. I don't really use the dates in that way, but you can absolutely do that. And then again, the shopping list is here, the gallery, and all recipes here. So again, huge fan of Rainbow Plant Life. If you are vegetarian or vegan, I believe all of her recipes are vegan and they are so ridiculously flavorful. Huge fan of the service. The PDFs are great, but of course, because I do everything in Notion, I wanted to get them moved into there as soon as possible. So that's how I do the pre-made meal plans. There's quite a few here. And then I've just got a general recipe explorer down here, which I can explore by category if I want to, and I can just kind of browse and see what's available to me. I've got a couple quick filters here, so I can just sort of, you know, I just need to find something that I can use up a certain ingredient or whatever it is. I can just include all of that here, and it's just a really easy way to browse. And then I just got some weekly meal prep notes of like things I can do every week. I also realized I've got some beta features turned on, so I probably can't show you what's in the weekly prep, but I do have some notes for myself about some condiments and components that I could make for the week. I can't show you everything that's in here, unfortunately. So that is kind of how I've been doing my meal planning at the moment. Mostly I'm either using this freestyle planner, which is super, super simple. The pre-made plans are a little more complex. The template itself is pretty advanced. So if I make a new meal plan here, new weekly meal plan, and let's say I add some recipes here. I'm just gonna add a couple randoms just so you can kind of see what it looks like. So let's say I add all of those. The ingredients are added automatically. The overview is here. Any component notes I would add here, and then it's going to show me a list of all the ingredients for the recipes above, and then the shopping list is here. So it's pretty ready to go. Now, all of this, of course, hinges on the fact that these recipes were added and the ingredients for those recipes were related here. So otherwise, you won't see your lovely list of groceries showing up. So this was just a test one. I will delete that. But yeah, that kind of gives you an idea of what this looks like. And I can add some notes about the meal plan too. You know, if I liked it, if I didn't like it, whatever, I can add some notes here. I've got about 24 at the moment to choose from, which gives me plenty of options for what to make. So that's the meal planning page. There's a number of other things in these other pages. I'm not going to go too far into detail on those, but Pantry Manager, for example, is a super simple page that just has the groceries database organized in different ways so that I can go through and you know, just check these off, go through the pantry, go through the fridge, and just check off any that are needed. Same thing, nuts and seeds. So I can go by category here, subcategory. This is just one way I can bring my laptop or iPad into the kitchen and I can just go through and check very quickly which things we need. Okay, let's go. In stock. And so yeah, I've just given myself some options for how I want to view these different things. And that just makes it faster to go through the kitchen and the fridge and decide what needs to get purchased. So there you have it. The Food HQ is just an overview that's got all the recipes here with a couple quick filters ready to go in case I just want to look things up by ingredient. Okay, so all of this is pretty complex if you don't really know Notion or you're not super comfortable with meal prepping. So let's make a new meal planner from scratch in easy mode. All right, so I'm gonna make this page, full width. Gonna make 2 columns, and that just type quotation marks, hit a space, and I'm gonna say choose your meals, and over here, planned. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to create a linked database, and I'm going to bring in the recipes. And I'm going to bring these in a table view. I'm going to hide everything except planned. I'm going to hide the database title. I'm going to drag this into the callout block. And you know what? I don't like all these lines, so I'm actually going to change this view to a list view. Much cleaner. Although I'm going to hide the tags property, and I just want the planned. Perfect. Now I'm going to group this by category. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to duplicate this database, and I'm going to drag this one onto the right, and I'm going to change this from a list layout into a gallery view. And I'm going to filter this by planned is checked. Now I want to group this by course instead. And I'll probably just make sure to change the order here. So breakfast, lunch, condiments and prep, snacks inside, dinner, and dessert. Now we'll just close these, reorder these if you want these in a different order. Again, I don't necessarily need dessert or that sort of thing. Let's change this to manual, and I'll probably hide beverages. I might hide components, kind of depends. Some of the dinner recipes have relations to components, so I might leave that. Let's drag dessert to the bottom and mains as well to the bottom. So salads, soup, stews. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Might even bold this. Gotta add a fun little icon, meal or food. Right, so this is probably the easiest way, I think, to do your meal planning. And that's just going through section by section, deciding what you want to eat. And you'll notice these that have the pink icons are actually parent pages. So anything that's pink has supplemental recipes inside it. So for example, here's peaches and cream baked oatmeal, and then there's a blueberry one in it as well. So some of them are messier than others, not a big deal. But I know that if I click that, it means that there's other optional flavors inside. And so the thing with using a category versus a course is that, you know, I could make a lentil salad and I can have it for lunch one day and have it for dinner the other day, but it's still a salad at the end of the day. So I like to have both. And personally, I like to have these category pages so that I can do something like this. I can see all the recipes that are categorized with that. I can see how many there are in that category, and I can see all of them here at a glance. So doing it as a database instead of as a select or multi-select, I like that it gives me some options here. Right, and I can even just paste images and things like that too. So there's lots of random notes in here under breakfast. So obviously this only really works well if you have assigned certain properties to your recipes. You've given them the ingredients, you have a planned checkbox, category, salads, maybe a subcategory, a course. So all the recipes are here, and then the shopping list is just going to show anything that's been checked with need. I think this is one of the easiest forms of meal planning and would probably be sufficient for most people's needs, but I do like the option of having that more advanced pre-made meal planner if I want it. I hope it's helpful to see a couple examples of how you might want to consider doing this. Again, some weeks I will use a freestyle planner, some weeks I'll just do what's on sale, and other times I'll just rely on a pre-made meal plan. So I don't use the same method every week, kind of depends on how much time I have on my hands, how much prep time I have available on a Sunday, etc. So you don't always have to do it the same way every time. Any little bit of planning that you do in advance is going to make things a little bit easier. I also like to do things in terms of components. So I will make sauces, I will make a batch of lentils, I will prep things in separate containers, and I'm only mixing them at the time of preparation. So that's another way that you can kind of keep things interesting throughout the week. So I hope this is helpful to see how you might approach it. If you have any questions, please post them below. I love the Food HQ and the meal planning side of Notion, and so I could talk about this endlessly for hours. So if you have any questions, definitely post them below. I'd love to show you other ways of approaching this and clarify anything that is not clear. I will include the link to the template in the description below. And otherwise, I wish you luck on your meal planning journey. Thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time.